No, kind of like... I do remember the first time that I met Phil and I played against him was at the World Series in '05 when I actually won. And I will be perfectly honest, that was very daunting. He had a huge chip stack and he had this presence about him. But, you know, 10 years on and playing with him several times, it's just another opponent, really, at the end of the day. You know what he's capable of. You know he's a high-level thinking player, so you just play accordingly.
Yeah, the best way is to treat him like he's just anyone else, right? Well, hard to do.
That's the beautiful thing about poker, though. When you sit at the poker table, you know, it levels everybody out. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you've won, whether you haven't won, everyone's the same because the chips actually do the talking.
Phil Ivey has pocket kings here, and he's raised it up to 45,000. That's the problem with guys like Phil Ivey, is they get good hands too, right?
They're allowed to.
Folds around to Dan Smith. And he announces all in, so I can't imagine Phil Ivey's going to fold. A quick call. Dan Smith, our short stack. He's got pocket fours, so, well, he's walked into a bit of a situation here, and he's on the verge of elimination.
This young man, Dan Smith, just recently won the Global Poker Index Poker Player of the Year for 2014.
Well, he's going to need a lot of help. He wants to see a 4 on this flop. Can he take chips off Phil Ivey? The flop, a 9-7-7 flop. Great flop for Phil.
Kings of Phil Ivey in front.
The table's gone very quiet now. The pot just a little under 600,000. The turn, a Queen of Hearts. So now only 2 cards in the deck can save Dan Smith.
These two aren't the most animated of characters.
But you just know that their minds are going at a million miles an hour, don't you? The river, an 8 of clubs. So we will lose Dan Smith. And Phil Ivey will take his chips. But I've got to hand it to them. They know how to play the nosebleeds, like you say. Folds around to Doug Polk, our chip leader. He lets it go. Round to Eric Seidel. We've spoken time and time again about how this man continues to play at such a high level. Richard Yong, one of the biggest characters we've seen in a long time. Still want to get a home game at his place, but I don't want to pony up the money to buy in. And there is Phil Ivey in the small blind. Eliminated Dan Smith a little earlier. Makes the call with ace-5 of clubs and Scott Seaver in the big blind. We'll check.
This calling out of the small blind with an ace has become more and more common these days. And it's partly pot control, partly trapping, and, you know, being elusive with the strength of your hand.
Scott Seaver with an inside straight draw.
Check.
Ivey checks, as does Scott. The turn, a 7 of clubs now, so Seaver pairs his 7. Ivey checks again. This time Scott Seaver's going to fire.
Bidding 33.
Well, Seaver's got middle pair here. He feels confident. Ivey's checked twice. Show no strength at all at the moment.
Look at this. Phil Ivey's going to look him up.
Well, Ivey has an 8 or a 4 to make a straight. Unfortunately, the 8 won't do him any good.
Well, the river's a 5 of spades, so Ivey pairs his 5.
Kids to feed.
Scott Seaver, though, in control with a pair of 7s.
I think Seaver's thinking now, if Ivey has an 8 to make the straight or a 4, he'll bet into me. If he checks, I'm going to bet. If he bets, I'm going to call. And I think Scott will call here.
Well, Phil Ivey bets 80,000 into Scott Seaver. This is Phil Ivey at his best, figuring out what his opponent has and betting into him. Scott Seaver, though, he's no spring chicken. He knows exactly what's going on.
It looks like Ivey, the way Ivey called the flop, certainly looks like he may have been on a draw to a straight. He may get Scott to fold here.
And he did, so there you go. We talk time and time again about how he plays at this high level, but he's made his opponent for his hand and he's taken advantage of it. Great play to him. It's just no coincidence.
I understand that inherently. So Doug doesn't want to bloat the pot unnecessarily.
Scott Seaver folds round to the button once again. Doug Polk has been rather active lately. 4 players remain. One of them's going to take 2.2 million, but only one of them has won this title twice already, including last year, and that is Phil Ivey. Polk raises it up with ace-4 offsuit. There he is in shot.
Call.
And he makes the call, so they'll go at it again. This time Ivey with a 10 and a 9 offsuit. Here comes the flop. There is a 10 there. Well, and an interesting flop too. A 10-3 deuce. So Polk with a straight draw and Ivey with top pair. Ivey checks quickly.
Now, Doug can bet here, or he can elect to take a free card for his gut shot straight.
Checks behind Ivey. The turn, a 2 of hearts. Action on Phil.
Betting 75.
75,000, just a little over half of the pot.
Doug can quite comfortably call here with his ace high. He's going to be ahead not most of the time, but a lot of the time he's going to be ahead. And he's also drawing to an ace or a 5.
Call.
Makes the call, in position. The river is a 6 of clubs, so Ivey's pair of 10s are best. Action is on Phil. Can he get Doug Polk to call here with ace high, depending on the amount?
He could. Yeah, it depends what, how weak Doug sees Ivey as being and what the size of this bet is. Can't really bet too much. And he's bet the pot.
Betting 200.
That's almost the pot. So Ivey's taken the line that I want to represent a bluff, basically, to get called by ace high. This is the sort of thinking that these guys are doing. Like, he's put Doug Polk on ace high. Ivey said, I've got top pair. I want to get a call. I'm going to bet the maximum to make it look like I'm actually trying to steal the pot.
And Doug Polk hasn't moved, so Phil Ivey's instincts once again, no surprise. Clearly making Doug Polk think about a call. You can almost hear a pin drop in the room. Doug Polk really considering this call. You're right, Joe.
580,000.
Raise to 580.
Wow, this is a surprise. He's made a raise here.
So he's turned his hand into a bluff, basically.
Phil Ivey hasn't moved, but look at those eyes.
Now, it's actually very simple for Ivey. There's no use raising. He's only going to get called by a better hand. Okay? He believes he's in front. If he does believe he's in front, he can just call and see what happens, right? If he believes he's behind, he can raise now to try and get his opponent to fold. But I think Ivey will just call.
Well, Ivey was caught by surprise there.
I didn't mean to bet 200, I meant to bet 175.
Ivey speaking out loud a little bit. You don't get that very often from Phil.
He just gave up a lot of information there. But I wonder whether that was deliberate to try and get a reaction from Polk.
You can never tell, right? He said, just to be clear, that he said that I meant to bet 175,000. Trying to elicit a reaction from Doug Polk, perhaps, a tell of some kind.
I think it was a pretty futile attempt, but maybe he's just being honest.
Does he got to put the chips in the pot or no when you raise? What's the rule?
Bets at 580.
You could just say it. You could just say it without putting the chips in.
Phil Ivey's just asking and clarifying a few tournament rules. As we mentioned earlier, Joe, when they travel, those rules change, so you've got to clarify occasionally.
Yeah, but now that was definitely his searching for information there.
Okay.
He knows that this is now playing poker, right? This is playing with people's minds right
So
now.
you were right the first time. Don't trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't trust poker players.
Yeah, he knows.
Not at the table anyway. Confused, frustrated. The tug of war is back, and even Phil Ivey gets it. It's great. Can he do it? Can he convince himself to call? He wants to, he doesn't want to. Do I, don't I? Every poker player in the world faces this, even Phil Ivey. There it is. He makes the call, so he will win a big pot. He almost looked a bit surprised there.
He was resigned to the fact that he's actually lost the hand, to be honest. So he was surprised that he won.
And was it because he couldn't figure out what Doug Polk was
Exactly.
doing?
He thought Doug is
Will
just
be on
trapped
Doug
him.
Polk. He has the button. He began our feature table and our final table as the chip leader. He's done very well to come this far. Featured last year in the Aussie Millions also. Raises it up with 8-9 offsuit, facing a very scary Phil Ivey in the big blind. That is some big blind to go after.
Cool.
Phil will defend again.
Especially when he has that chip stack sitting in front of him as well.
Well, Ivey has 6-4 offsuit. The flop, a queen 5-3 flop with 2 hearts. So Ivey with an up and down straight draw. Polk, well, Polk's got 9 high, but he's still ahead.
I would have liked to see Ivey bet into this flop, to be honest. It's so deceptive betting into this flop, then hitting the turn. Your opponent's never going to put you on it.
Ivey checks, Polk
Betting
bets
110.
110,000.
Ivey's never folding here with an open-ended straight draw.
Now, is it just a call or is it a raise, or, you know, what are the options here?
Either option is valid, depending on what you put your opponent on. You know, he's out of position, doesn't want to bloat the pot just yet.
Makes the call, the turn, a 7 of clubs. So Ivey turns a straight. The action is on Phil now. Now, the interesting thing about that card is it still gives Polk a straight draw.
A 6 will give him the nut straight on the river. I like to see Phil check here. I think he has checked. Yep. Good check there.
Now, Polk fired at the flop.
Check.
He backs down and checks. Now the river. It is a 9 of hearts. So, well, Doug Polk pairs his 9, but Ivey's got a straight. So it also completes the flush draw. Take us through from here, Joe.
The 9 is not a good card for Polk. Ivey should bet here, and Polk will probably call. Now that he's got middle pair, he feels obliged to call. But, you know, he could be strong enough to fold.
How much is it?
Well, he asks the question, so you're right, Joe. The bet has made Doug Polk curious, and it looks like the bet is around 300,000, and he's counting it out almost as though he's resigned to call. He has. He's calling immediately with his pair of 9s, and Phil Ivey takes a very, very nice pot off Doug Polk, turning the straight.
Life would have been much easier for Polk had the river bricked, but had it come nothing. He could have just easily folded his hand.
Well, Phil Ivey takes a very nice pot off Doug Polk. That would be. But in front of him is Mike McDonald. No stranger to, like Joe says, the nosebleed section. I sit next to the world champion from 2005 in his hometown, Joe Hasham. Well, you grew up in the Crown Poker Room. Did you ever think there was going to be a $250,000 buy-in that's a regular event on the calendar?
My God, Paul, I remember 15 years ago, you know, sitting around thinking, why aren't more people playing this game? And now you just look at the sea of people that are playing. It's really good. It's really nice to be part of this.
Oh, we've come a long way. A pot brewing here between Mike McDonald, who raises it up with King 4, and there is a king in the door, and Phil Ivey called with King 10. Flops 2 pair. Mike's got a big piece of this too.
This is not a good flop for Mike. Like, you know, us knowing the cards, he's basically drawing dead here. It's very hard for him to win this pot, but he doesn't know that.
Well, he checks, perhaps for pot control. The turn is a 3 of diamonds. I'd imagine there's some betting going. Look at this. Phil checks again, hoping Mike takes a stab. Well, Mike's got something. Surely he's going to bet now.
He should be betting now. I really like his check on the flop. Like, that must be just pure instinct to check that flop. Or he was maybe trapping Phil. You know, like thinking, well, I'm going to check back my top pair. Phil will take a stab on the turn. Doesn't know that Phil's flopped the nuts basically with King 10.
Mike's going to bet now.
The dynamics of this is incredibly interesting, Paul, because now Mike bets, hoping to induce Phil to raise him on a bluff, But Phil doesn't have a bluff. He actually has it.
He's got 2 pair.
So we could see a lot more chips go in the middle here.
125,000 is the bet. Action on Ivey, who makes a much bigger raise.
350,000.
350,000 now. Back on Mike McDonald with that glare.
Mike is in a world of pain right now, okay? He has top pair, no kicker. Like, if I'm in his spot, I'm going, how can I fold top pair in this spot? He must be making a move on me, you know? I have to at least call.
McDonald calls, so we will see a river and Phil Ivey in very good shape. This pot brewing to almost $1 million now. Phil Ivey has him against the ropes. The river is a queen of diamonds. Now, in the context of the hand, does that change anything, that river card?
It does, because King Queen is one of the hands that Phil can put Mike on. So it may change the dynamics. But he still has kings and tens. I mean, he's not going anywhere. He would be saying to himself, geez, I'm really unlucky here if he actually does have king queen, because I've gone from winning the pot to losing the pot.
Action's on Ivey now.
Seat 7 bets.
He pulls out a pile of chips. The dealer's going to count them out. 600,000. Can Mike fold here? It's a tough fold.
He can fold, but Ivey's bet the perfect amount to get him to call. So hard to fold with top pair.
And he does call, so wow, Phil Ivey with a super flop. Look, he was ahead before the flop. He outflopped Mike McD, and unfortunately for Mike McDonald, he flopped top pair, played it very creatively in the end. You're right, a super bet on the river. And that really does make it hard for Mike McDonald now. I mean, how do you stop this man in this situation?
This is, now he's got a commanding chip lead.
Challenging for this, and now he's going to need to do it again against Phil Ivey. We believe he can, but what an opponent he has. Mike McDonald raises the button with ace-queen offsuit. Action on Phil now.
I'm all in.
And he announces all in. Surely it's a call. Yes, it is. Very quickly. So waiting for Ivey's hand. He's got king, queen of clubs. Mike McDonald's got him dominated and is in very good shape to double up.
1.1.
Yeah, those two hands play each other. Heads up, king, queen, ace, queen. There's no way the chips aren't going in the middle.
Ace, queen, they're all in play.
Well, Phil Ivey's going to need to get lucky to knock him out. But if he does, it'll be 3 titles at the Aussie Millions at the $250,000 tournament. That would be astonishing. I mean, he's 2 is astonishing, but 3 is almost ridiculous.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. It's definitely unprecedented for sure.
Well, there's still a lot in between them on. Wow, what a flop. Look at this. King 10-10 flop. Phil Ivey has outflopped Mike McDonald, but Mike McDonald still has outs.
Well, now he's picked up the jacks as outs as well, so he's got 7 outs total.
He grabs the lead and 2 cards away. Mike McDonald can barely believe that Ivey caught the lead there. Will the turn be of any help? An ace or a jack is what we're looking for Mike McDonald to survive. The turn is an 8 of hearts. If this river is not an ace or a jack, Phil Ivey will be a 3-time champion of the LK Boutique $250,000 challenge. Look for an ace or a jack, or Phil will be the champion again.
We head for the river. Mike needs
Can Mike peel the river?
remain in this tournament.
The river is a 9 of hearts, and that will do it. Phil Ivey, amazing. 3-time champion of the LK Boutique $250,000 buy-in event at the Aussie Millions.
Fantastic.
Joe, it's just, I'm almost speechless.
Incredible. Even Phil's a bit impressed with himself.
This is the big game. Buy-in cost you somewhere anywhere between $100,000 and $250,000. And the action is on Andrew Feldman from the UK.
Andrew, a very tidy player, but he's been pretty quiet so far. Not now, though. Under the gun, he makes it 2,100 to go.
2,000.
Well, he's got 9-10 of hearts, an interesting hand, suited connector. And there is our Hungarian billionaire, Sandor, in the action. He's picked up 9-jack offsuit.
Sandor feels lucky. What about Massa?
Well, Massa's picked up pocket eights here. Could potentially raise. No, he just makes the call, playing a bit carefully. Gus gets out of the way, around to Tom Dwan, who, as you can see by the amount of chips in front of him, is having a very, very good day.
And that has inspired him to make the call with just a 5-3 offsuit.
So 4 to the flop, and here it comes. It is an ace 8-4 flop, massive flop for Masa Kagawa, flopping middle set. Dwan has an inside straight draw.
Nothing there for Feldman. But he is going to make the continuation bet.
5,500.
5,500 is the amount. Sandor gets out of the way. Round to Massa now with his middle set.
A lot of blinking from the Japanese man. I wonder whether the expert players will be picking up on that. So he's sitting with him for quite a while.
He decides not to raise. He's just going to call here, trapping. Now,
Is that pricing Tom Dwan in?
well, with that many chips in front of you, like you mentioned earlier, you know, sometimes you can speculate with risky hands, and it looks like that's what he's doing. And he's reaching for chips, so he's not going anywhere. He makes the call, and we go to the turn. And the turn is a 2 of spades, so Tom Dwan's speculation has paid off. And he checks.
Check.
And Feldman checks as well, so it's over to Massa now, who at the flop was such a favourite. And now could be betting into, well, a storm, really.
Yeah, he's going to need the board to pair. We know he's not going to get Tom Dwan off this hand. Tom at the moment has the nuts.
11,000.
He bets 11,000. Now it's over to Durr. Will he choose to raise? He's generally been slow playing his monster hands, as we saw a little earlier with Chris Ferguson.
But Massa is no Chris Ferguson, and it may be that Tom will play it differently against the less experienced player.
Looks like he's reaching for the bigger priced chips, the more expensive ones.
Yeah, remember this is value for value, the same as cash. So it's like he's taking a big wad out of his wallet.
And he makes a very big raise. Andrew Feldman gets out of the way, and the action is back over to Massa. It's a tough spot, really.
Yep. The shipping magnate, I'm sure, knows his way around a boardroom. He's also a successful poker player, certainly in terms of Japanese rankings. But playing against Tom Dwan is a whole different kettle of sushi.
Well, he's re-raising here. He's decided, I think I've got the best hand.
How much is it? 49,200 to call.
49,200 to call for Tom Dwan, who has the nuts. He's decided not to slow play this hand, and it looks as though it's paid off at this point. Massa still has outs to the river.
So Tom Dwan's going to be putting him either on a set or ace-king here. A big, big ace anyway.
Well, he's made an incredible call at the flop, and it has paid off. Right now, he's just trying to figure out how to get the most chips out of Massa. Massa still has a lot of outs. But right now, Durr is in the best position possible.
Okay, call.
And he makes a call, so choosing not to re-raise Massa right there. Massa still has a lot of money left in front of him. So Massa looking for a repeat. And the river is a king of hearts, so Tom Dwan has the nuts.
And if Tom Dwan was putting him on ace-king, he checks!
Wow, that is very courageous and gutsy poker from Tom Dwan. Checking there, risking a possible check from Massa behind him and not getting paid off on the river. And look at that, it's paid off. Massa picks up $100,000 in one chip and bets 70 of it.
Yeah, even though he'll get some change back from that plaque that's gone in, he's more or less committing himself.
All in. Line moves all in.
And there it is, Tom Dwan pulling the trigger, Massa quickly calling, and look at the disgust in his face as he sees such a big turn card for Tom Dwan and such a terrible card for him.
Amazing. There is $400,000 and more in the middle of this base, and Tom Dwan has just won it with a 3-5 offsuit.
Well, he took a big risk and it certainly paid off.
Feeding upon itself. With each hand, he gets more and more confidence.
A call from Phil with pocket nines, and a call from the big blind of Patrick Antonius with the weak ace, ace-4.
Queen 9 ace.
Well, oh wow, what a flop here. We've got a monster. We've got a set of nines for Phil Ivey. We've got an ace here for Antonius.
5,000.
He's got top pair. Ivey with bottom set. And if you get cute with it, Tony G, he's got a gut shot here. He can catch a 10 to make Broadway.
Phil Ivey leading out with his set. He's not interested in just trying to pick the 5,000-6,000 up there or get a small continuation bet.
Pass.
Tony G gets away from his king-jack. And it's just Patrick Antonius and Phil Ivey, the two big losers of the game so far today.
Ace.
Oh, wow, and that is such a gin card there. The ace of spades on the turn. Antonius got trip aces, but Ivey's got a full house, nines full of aces. The pot is already nearly $17,000.
It does bring a flush as well, so that may slow Patrick Antonius down. And of course, his kicker isn't that strong either with the 4. But I'll be shocked if he doesn't call this.
Ivey is not out of the woods, though. A queen, an ace, or a 4 would kill Ivey. Pot is $31,700.
Do you think there's actually any way that Patrick Antonius can actually lay this hand down? There's not really a lot he can actually beat here.
Called 15.
Well, he definitely doesn't have a raising hand. He doesn't have much of a kicker. He can't beat an ace, he can't beat spades, and he can't beat a set.
Last card.
Here's the river.
4.
Wow, what a card!
Oh, and this is just one of those days where if you're Phil Ivey, just stick your head somewhere and go somewhere else. This is terrible. A 4 on the river, and Antonius has made full house. The pot is already $46,000. I don't see how Ivey doesn't lose all his money here. You got to realize if a queen had come out or an ace, you get away from the nines, but not the 4.
The 4 is the absolute joker for Patrick Antonius.
Unbelievable.
That's all I can do.
He's played his get out of jail free card. And now it's just a question of how much he can get out of it. That's a $40,000 bet from Phil Ivey.
$40,000 bet. The pot is now $86,000, and the action is on Antonius. And do you just move in here?
I think he does. I think he's just going to move his chips in. He's got the right amount for a standard can of raise here.
And sure enough, there it is. Patrick Antonius moves all in.
Patrick moves all in.
How much is it? How much is he moving in for?
I think they pretty well had almost exactly the same amount of chips at the start of this hand.
You're right. Patrick Antonius started the hand with $143,000. Phil Ivey with $142,000. And this pot size is $207,000. I want to say about 90 to call.
85.
That's going to make this pot almost $300,000. And I can't see how Phil can get away from this. He's not going to give him ace-queen. He can't really give him ace-9. The only hand he's really losing to here is ace-4.
But would Patrick Antonius make this move with anything else?
King flush. The pot's offering him 2 to 1.
Unbelievable.
Call.
And
He
Phil
says
Ivey
call.
is called. He is called. This is the biggest pot in the history of televised poker in Europe. It's unbelievable.
$300,000 almost in this pot. And Phil Ivey desperately unlucky on that 4 on the river. And Patrick Antonius wins.
It's a hell of a band-aid. We've still got a lot of poker to play. I'm sitting next to the 2005 World Series of Poker main event champion. I have to say that every time before I announce your name, Joe. Unfortunately, it's a hell of a title. So, you've played these stakes. Do you approach this field? I mean, the answer will be yes, but let's get more into it. Do you approach this field a lot differently to a main event, for example?
It's when you play in this field, you're playing with a known quantity. You know the players, you know their tendencies, you know they're not going to do anything ridiculous. So it's kind of like it helps you corral their activities. Whereas when you play in a large field event with a lot of unknowns, a lot of players who are amateur players, they could do anything. Like we saw Dwaglen do in the main event. You know, like this event, there's more pressure because the level of thinking is higher, but at the same time, how do I say? I don't want to use the word easier, but I want to say I want to use the word more predictable, perhaps. Like, I know that he's going to make a move that makes sense.
And they seem so relaxed too. Look at this. Well, we have Jason Moe raising with Queen Jack offsuit. Richard Jong calls and flops a full house, and it looks as though Jason's going to bet into him with what he thinks is a straight draw that might be live.
We haven't spoken about Jason. Jason's a young gun of an online player. He has built up a very impressive record online, and he's very feared.
Well, he bets 65,000 and gets a call from Richard Yong. And look at this, the turn, as though it was scripted, a 9 of spades. So that will cost Jason Moe, I'd imagine, quite a bit.
The poker gods are so cruel, aren't they?
They sure are. Well, the pot now almost 300,000. Jason Moe with 1.2 behind him. Turns a straight. Little does he know Richard Yong is sitting on a full house. And he's pretty much flopped him dead. There is no chance that Jason will win this hand. He has bet 145,000. Will Richard Yong elect to call? Or will he pull the trigger now? Richard Yong, the dealer, tells him there's 20 seconds left on the clock. Each player has 30 seconds.
Jason bets out 145,000.
Richard Yong
355.
making a big bet of over 350,000 now, trying to get the rest of Jason Moe's money, given that Jason has such a strong hand. Is this the time, Joe? Is this where he sticks it in? Would he be wrong to?
No, it wouldn't be wrong to. Look,
20
you know,
seconds.
I've said it time and time again. It's hard enough to make a pair, let alone a straight, let alone a full house. So it's sometimes you just get cold decked. This is a cold deck.
Jason calls.
He's announced call, so we will see a river. And the river is an 8 of hearts and gives
Well,
Richard Yong quads, and he announces all in. So
Unfortunately, Paul, though, that is the worst card in the deck for Richard. Because now
55.
Jason beats nothing now. It's an easy fold for him at this point. We've noticed the dealer in the background calling 20 seconds. This tournament is played, everyone only gets 30 seconds to act on their hand. And you see the blue buttons in front of every player? That's extended time. So you get like another minute, a minute and a half if you want to think about your hand. And the reason we've done this is so that people do not think for too long and waste time.
is it possible that the lucky 8 on the river for Richard Yong giving him quads could be a saviour? And it is, Joe, you're right. It saved Jason Moe. He would likely have called had that river been anything else.
Yeah,
Richard Yong with a very...
think O'Mahony is gonna play now.
Yeah.
Raised 6,000 total.
Oops. He spells trouble for Hickman.
You hate to see a cold deck hand happen, but Daz Hickman is about to be on the back end of some awful cards. And, in this particular format, Ken, it's really hard
20,000 more, 20.
to get off of this kind of situation, big pair against big pair,
Yeah,
isn't it?
folding queens, I don't know how. It would be hard for me to fold queens in this format, I'm telling you that.
The re-raise is 20,000 more. Oh, wow.
Wow! Look at this. Talk about cold deck.
Queens versus kings versus
Oh, look
aces.
at that face. Oh, yum, yum, yum. I like these sweets.
Achilles.
Sweets for my sweet, sugar for the daddy.
Achilles is one of the great trappers of all time. And he'll probably sit here for about 7 minutes. Do you think he's going to move all in, though? Is there any reason that he might try and smooth call here?
Yeah, if he's greedy and wants all the chips from both players. As it is, a call here would be perfect, because then the kings would come over the top.
But, I mean, even if he does re-raise all in, can't that possibly look like ace-king?
Yeah, I mean, kings are not going to fold, but queens can get off the hook. If he moves all in and kings calls, but queens might call anyway.
I don't know if I've ever seen this before. Queens versus kings versus aces in the same hand.
Looks like he's having a very difficult decision with his pocket jacks.
And the Oscar goes to... There he is.
No, that was quite imminent. I was just knew it was going to happen, but I just didn't. I was trying to work he might do it in a minute.
How many pocket pairs are out here?
I'm surprised.
Many.
No, got off.
4 pocket pairs. 5 pocket pairs. Wow. That's amazing.
Anyway, if you've got a hand, I've got a hand.
You really don't want to play.
It's gotten very fortunate for Dale Hoy and Johnny Houston that they don't have to stick a chip in the pot. But what is O'Mahony thinking right now?
Thank you, Lord. Give me another one. Oh, he likes his hand for sure.
We could see a triple all in.
Good hand.
And O'Mahony's asked for a count. I mean, he is a conservative guy. He's wearing a blue blazer
He
for
can
crying
never
out
fold
loud.
kings. Folding kings would be a big mistake in the long run. If you start trying to second guess yourself, trying to make big laydown with kings, you're just not doing the things right.
Yeah, I know that's what Dan Harrington says in his book. He says, listen, it doesn't matter. Don't fold kings. If the guy gets aces, you can dog him anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And this table absolutely silent. But 3 hearts are going flap, flap. And I wonder what Daz Hickman is thinking as well.
I was thinking about that too, because this spells trouble for him. Because of the both opponents are thinking so long. He thinks his queens are probably good. He thinks maybe I'm up against ace-king, or ace-king jacks. So I think he's going to put the chips in as well.
Do you really want to go home now?
Chestnut to Gillies. Don't sling that one in. I mean, there will be better opportunities than this.
99 out of 100 players.
I mean, is O'Mahony thinking right now for the benefit of trying to get Hickman's action, or is he actually considering that Kalakis might have aces?
A good hand. He's finding it hard to put down.
He's probably trying to get Hickman's money as well. But now it's enough with acting. Put the chips in the middle. Spin the wheel.
This is amazing.
You hot committed?
You're going to tell him about it, or not?
Give us a
I feel like I could go and have a look at his hand and kick him. The
funny thing is, O'Mahony's only got 6,000 in.
I could tell you what you could do with them right now. I think you got the hand.
Wow!
Oh,
wow!
My.
They trusted the instincts, and they were absolutely right.
I've never ever seen kings folded pre-flop in this format before, and I mean that's one of the greatest laydowns we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Or one of the worst.
It was a great laydown. He had the instincts that Kalakis had a hand, and he did, so he was right. You can't take that away from the guy. 98 out of 99 times it's the correct move to put the chips in the middle, but this time it was correct to fold, and he found the great play. and he gives the trouble to Hickman instead.
Yeah, Hickman would have found it much easier to fold these queens.
Call.
If O'Mahony had folded, and look at this! O'Mahony is going to pat himself on the back 6 ways to Sunday, while Hickman...
I'll give you one guess what I folded.
Ace.
King.
King. Seven.
Kings.
Wow.
He's pretty pleased with himself.
No matter what happens from here, O'Mahony feels like he won. Of course,
No king.
we're liable to see a few kings on the flop.
He doesn't want a king.
I'm not even going to ask you.
Told the dealer no king.
Now, the only good news for Hickman here is that he's not all in.
Yeah.
But he's going to be short-stacked unless a queen comes.
Well, he looks like a ladies' man. That's the king. It's like, Lady Luck always rewards bad play and punish good play. She's got a weird sense of humor, that's for
She
sure.
really does. Dan Harrington proved right here. Poor Dennis Mahoney.
How about a 5 for a straight?
If you know what I'm saying, from my point of view.
Well, anything but a queen. Hickman's drawing to 2 cards here. And that's it.
5 of hearts.
Oh! 3rd place! For Achilles Kalakis with the 2 aces. What a hand! A queen on
What
the
a
river.
hand. Give me some water. Wow.
That's tough.
What a hand.
Deck is colder than a polar bear's freezer. Achilles Kalakis taking a long walk of game.
That's all.
That.
That was an amazing, amazing hand.
What a pot. That's one for the books.
Inspired pass pre-flop, but knowing that you folded the winner, will O'Mahony's emotions come out? Phil Hellmuth knows something about that.
Call.
And the limp in.
No raise.
I mean, first level, you're not a big fan of limping in really with anything, or are you?
No, not at all. But I mean, the term they use on the internet, all the young kids these days, it's called mind setting, where they're trying to like trap a set and they hit a set, and there you go. But oh my goodness me, look at this.
How big could this pot get? Set, flush, straight.
Wow.
Quick call from Achilles. I mean, he's not really to know right now how much action he could get by fast playing this, is he?
No, but he's made absolutely the correct move, because the last thing he wants to do is see another spade on the turn.
Landers has got the straight. I mean, what should happen now?
Well, quite rightly, Timmy's obviously of the opinion that he's betting, say, a lone ace or a pair. He's got a big hand here.
And he's made a big bet.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see Kalakis putting his hand down. I think those two are going to go to war, but I can see Donoghue being clever enough to pass, but it is a real tight spot, this.
Can you pass a set here? I mean, how many options does Donoghue have? Is raise an option right now for him?
No.
Oh.
Now comes the move, because if Kalakis can push here, if he can find it within himself to push. Oh.
Cool.
Is that a what kind of call is that? I mean, is he actually trying to slow play slow? Or is he actually worried?
I think he knows he's winning, but he's just hoping a spade doesn't come in the end. Oh my goodness me! Wow.
Check.
Donoghue's got 4 threes, and I mean,
and he still looks like he's asleep.
Can this pot get bigger?
I can only see a call. I think if he bets here...
What's the bet size? What should the bet size be?
He's going to bet 32,000 in my book here.
40.
And there you go, bets 40. He's going to get called by Kalakis, and that allows Tim Flanders to fold, because Tim cannot be winning this coup.
We've already seen Achilles is kind of on his A game tonight. I mean, obviously, the flush is good, a good hand, but... I mean, he doesn't think Donoghue would be bluffing here, does he?
The information he has got is he's in a 3-way coup, and a 3-way coup will open itself up to a full house being out there, as opposed to if it heads up, you just can't believe they've got it. In his mind, he's betting with the flush, he's playing a hand that's got a bigger flush draw, and maybe there's someone who's got 2 pair or a set.
If somebody had a bigger flush out there, I mean...
I think the hand would have been played faster.
Right.
So, I mean, that's probably going to mess up his thought process.
Because it's, I mean, and who's he more worried about? Is he worried about...
Call.
Yeah, and Tim has to pass here.
This has been one strange hand. It's kind of amazing that no one's going to go broke here.
Well, you see, what Kalakis' flush is just sort of mid-range, and he was scared of another spade coming out, because when he gets two opponents, he's thinking, I'm never going to make somebody with the ace of spades pass. So he needs to see no spades.
Look at that face, Tim. Physical torture pain. But 40,000 is nearly all his stack. Can he beat a bet and a call?
No, no. And I'm sure he's going to be clever enough to understand that. He's just mad that it's paired up at the end, but he doesn't know the pair up at the end has actually saved him. He's not going to be thinking that, but that's exactly how it is.
He's looking at Achilles. He's looking at Donica. I mean, in his wildest dreams, could he say to himself, Achilles? No.
Well, his best chance was to phone a friend. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Take it as a good pass.
What a hand!
Straight.
What a hand!
And he'll certainly be looking to do that again here today. Question isn't will he raise, question is how much.
Raise to 100,000.
This time it's a min raise, 100,000. So he's varying things up a bit. He's found the 5-6 of spades. So is he hoping to see a flop here, Joe?
No, I think he's just making just a raise in position and mixing it up a little bit rather than moving all in every hand.
How much do you have, Fabian?
Confusing his opponents a little bit.
That's 335. 35.
Call.
So Igor Kurganov's going to make the call with the Jack-7 of spades. We'll see a flop.
Heads up to the flop.
Igor Kurganov's the first player to speak. 2-9-3 with two spades, so both players
check.
Have flopped the flush draw.
Trickett doesn't want to see a spade on the turn here.
Bet 80,000. 80,000.
So Sam's bet 80,000. Action's back on Igor.
Igor could quite easily check raise here with his spade draw. He's taking the safe option, he's just calling.
To the turn.
So we'll see the turn card, and it's the 4 of spades. Wow, what a card. That has made Sam Trickett a straight flush. He is absolutely unbeatable in this hand. And Igor Kurganov has got a jack-high flush, so he'll think that he's unbeatable. Both players will think they've got the best hand. This will be very, very interesting to watch.
This is what we call a cooler, Jono. All the chips are going into the middle. Sam has the absolute nuts. He's got the best hand possible. Igor's going to call 100%.
So Sam's bet out. It's bet 160,000 behind a check from Igor. So Igor's trying to trap him here, thinking that he's got the best hand. Little does he know that Sam is unbeatable.
Mullen, call.
Mullen, call.
Drawing dead. Oh my god.
All in, call. Sam says you're drawing dead and shows in the straight flush.
No mercy, Sam. Straight away, call, you're drawing dead.
Seen this?
Jesus Christ, man. Like.
I think Sam's been...
An actor and son of Goldie Hawn, who was at our featured table today.
And of course, he's the brother of actress Kate Hudson.
Action is on Sam Farha. On the Milwaukee's Best Light Pocket Cam, Farha has ace-10 offsuit. Sammy's going to bet 200 chips. Everybody in the room starts with their buy-in amount, 10,000 chips. Over to Oliver Hudson in 2002. He was one of People Magazine's 50 most beautiful people.
I don't see it.
Pocket tens.
Raise.
And Oliver has announced a raise.
Re-raise.
He's going to make it 450 to Sam Farha.
Sammy doesn't like to wait a long time to get his feet wet. This is the first hand of the session, and he's going to call with his ace-10 offsuit.
Oliver Hudson in the lead right now with his pocket tens. The flop is ace, ace, 10. Both get full houses, but Sammy's got the nuts.
You gotta be kidding me. This is the very first hand of the main event for both of these guys. Hudson has tens full. I mean, he can't get up. This is a disaster movie for him.
Farha earns the check mark, but both players check.
Both were slow playing it, and Mr. Hudson is in bad shape. He's got the tens full. He's not going anywhere.
A full house for Oliver Hudson, but it's second best. He bets 300 chips. Farha raises now to 1,300. That's a lot for this point of the tournament. Well, hand one.
All in.
And Hudson goes all in. And Farha calls immediately.
Oh, my God.
Very first hand of their main event. Sammy's got the nuts, and Oliver Hudson is in shock. I mean, someone needs to tell him he can get up. He is drawing dead. He's going home.
A meaningless jack on the river, and Hudson's gone.
First hand.
Thank you.
That is incredible.
Nice hand. That's it. Holy s***. Hey, nice hand, man. I do. That's the way to get beat, I guess.
He just blew through 10 grand in about 90 seconds. Those are Paris Hilton numbers.
I had to win the first hand, though.
Sammy Farha, on the other hand, doubles his chips in the very first hand.
Sammy, the first one to 20,000 chips today. Made it look easy.
To get through the main event. Back to the featured table now. 3 players in a hand. Mike Matiso, Roberto Romanello, and Greg Geller. Matiso with pocket nines. Romanello has pocket jacks. Geller leads them both with 2 kings.
3 big pocket pairs. I smell trouble.
Flop now is ace, jack, king. Geller hit his set of kings. Romanello a set of jacks, and that missed Matiso.
Set over set. Now I really smell trouble.
Matiso does check. Romanello owns a fish and chip shop in Wales, and he checks. And Geller checks.
Geller should have fired away. Too many draws on that board.
Turn card is a 10. Geller still leads with his 3 kings.
But see, someone's got to have Broadway now, don't they? Well, nobody does, but somebody should.
Matiso checked it. Romanello now checks it over to Geller, who leads, and he checks.
But I got to get a court order to make this guy bet?
Another 10 on the river. Geller gets the check mark with kings full. Matiso's lucky he didn't hit that 9. He checks. Romanello now will bet 1,800 with jacks full.
Yeah, bad time for jacks full. Man, you're right, Lon. Pocket jacks are impossible to play.
Geller now, kings full and a check mark, will raise it to 6,000.
Well, you know, now Geller's check looks brilliant. He's got Romanello trapped.
Matiso gets out of the way. Now to Romanello, needs 4,200 to call.
Just don't raise me.
Geller playing games with Romanello.
You sure if I pass? Pardon me? You sure if I pass? No. One time? No.
The only thing preventing Romanello from pushing all in, and I would have yelled out Heidi Ho an hour ago, was that Geller made a big pre-flop raise, so he could have pocket aces or pocket kings. And unless Romanello's going Hollywood on us, he's actually considering mucking his jacks full, which would be an unconscious laydown. I mean, if he lays this down, I'll move to a Franciscan monastery and become head chef.
Okay, I'll show.
Geller trying to move things along.
Is he really thinking of folding this?
Okay.
He does.
No way he folds.
Yeah, he said he would. Let's go. Fold. You're out. Your hand's dead. Let's go.
And shows.
Wow. How do you fold that hand?
Romanello folds jacks full.
Wow.
And that is the player's good instinct moment.
Oh, my God. I could never have folded that hand. Unbelievable. Nice fold. Wow. Okay, I would never have folded that hand. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I knew I was beat. That is the fold of the tournament that I've ever seen.
Are there even grocery stores near monasteries?
How do I draw tables with people like this? I mean, there's 72 million idiots out there, and I got to drop guys laying jacks full down and being right.
Romanello may sell fish for a living, but he showed he's not one there. So 10 players at this featured table still, including Jennifer Harmon, who was absent from last year's main event. She was undergoing a kidney transplant, successful, we're happy to say. She's got pocket queens and raises to 200. Corey Zeidman from Coral Gables, Florida, made a stud final table last year. 9-8 of diamonds.
Call.
Action on Brady Davis in his first World Series of Poker. He's 34 years old from Illinois.
You cannot get up from a table here, Lon, without tripping over an internet guy in a Red Sox cap.
3 to our flop now. The flop, 10 Jack Queen Harmon with a set, but Zeidman flops a Queen High straight.
Boy, that is the prelude to some fireworks usually.
Davis checks over to Harmon, who's got a set of queens, and she bets 500 chips on Zeidman.
2,000.
He raises it up to 2,000 with that straight.
When you're holding the two smallest cards of a straight, you want to raise everybody else out because you don't want somebody else to get lucky and get a higher straight on you.
Well, he forced Brady Davis out. Now action on Jen Harmon. It's 1,500 more to Jen. That is a lot at this stage of the tournament.
She plays it safe and just calls.
Zeidman with the lead with his straight as we go to the turn. The turn is a 10 of diamonds. Harmon makes a full house.
And boy, Lon, that's virtually the worst card in the deck that could come out for Zeidman because it gives Jennifer Harmon, who checks, an almost unbeatable hand and makes Corey think his hand is even better now because of the straight flush draw on top of his made straight.
1,000.
Zeidman bets 1,000.
And it's just bad luck for Corey Zeidman. He flops the straight, and then the next card gives him a straight flush draw, but if he makes the flush, he can't win. He can only win with the straight flush, and there's only one card left in the deck that could do that for him. Jen in the driver's seat.
It's 1,000 chip bet to Jen Harmon, and she's reaching.
3,000.
She raises it to 3,000.
And it is head-shaking time now for Corey Zeidman. He doesn't know it, but only one card in the deck, the 7 of diamonds, would save him.
How can I get off of this hand?
Every decision in the main event magnified. Both have monster hands. You lose this hand, your day just might be over.
I think he might have ace-king, actually. I was hoping it wasn't that. Now I'm hoping something else.
Yeah, if she had ace-king, she'd have the higher straight.
Wow.
And his flush, if he made it, then would beat her.
How can I possibly muck this hand?
He can only muck it if he believes that she has the full house already.
I call.
He makes the call. We're going to the river. Jen Harmon with a huge advantage. And now the river card. Oh, the perfect card for Zeidman. The 7 of diamonds gives him the straight flush.
And he even checks it again, which an amateur would do, to make sure he's got it. Wow.
Action on Jen Harmon, who has the full house. She makes it 3,000 to put Zeidman all in.
Why is Corey acting as if he's agonized?
I guess I could do a lot of sightseeing if I lose this hand.
You can't lose the hand.
All in.
It's over. Zeidman takes the pot.
Straight flush.
I knew you had that hand. Oh, mamma mia.
It was hard to get off. I'm like, gosh, I flopped the straight. I'm like, ace-king is the only hand that's going to beat me now.
Don't put a 7 of diamonds up there.
Wow, nice hand. Thank you. Come on, a little for that. Yeah, all right, yeah.
Jennifer's been told she looks like she's in pain when she plays. She's got good reason right now.
Takes a lot to beat you in a hand. Straight flush home.
Jennifer not getting any consolation from Zeidman. Harmon hurting early at the main.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.